TIFU by exclaiming, "It smells like a dead body," when an actual dead body was in the house. This happened in 2015 when I was a senior in high school. My grandfather had been diagnosed with cancer in September of 2014 and had been told that it was terminal. He had just retired and we were all really sad that he wasn't going to be able to enjoy retirement with his wife. He remarried after my grandma. He was a goofy guy who wore pants with embroidered ducks on them and always had a magic trick to show everyone when we would visit. During his last day alive, my mother, sister and myself came over to support his wife. There were also neighbors coming in and out of the house saying their goodbyes and just consoling each other. When my grandfather passed away, we were all in the room with him and told him we loved him and that it was okay to let go. After we left the room to give his wife some time alone, my sister, my mom and I went downstairs to join the neighbors at the dining room table. This table was able to seat about 8 people and it was full, so I was standing next to my mom at the head of the table. People had brought food to snack on and someone brought a cheese plate. I did not notice this cheese plate, so I started to comment about how stinky the room was to my mom and sister. Eventually I said the words, "It smells like a dead body," out loud in front of everyone. The room was silent except for my mom and sister's attempts to conceal their laughter. I turned beet red and added, dead cat," to the sentence and then abruptly left to use the bathroom and reassess my life. I know my grandpa would have laughed if he heard it, so that makes me feel better. But I can never look any of those neighbors in the face without remember that moment upside down face. TL. Doctor while standing in a house that had my recently deceased grandfather upstairs. I said, "It smells like a dead body. Dead cat," because someone brought a stinky cheese plate. I think it's really funny that your grandpa would have laughed. Isn't that what we all hope? For someone to completely embarrass themselves after we pass, haha. God. I love funny stories like this. It reminds me of my grandfather. My grandfather passed at age 90. They were putting him on hospice and were giving him 1 to 2 months. But said he was perfectly stable and not going anywhere that day. Well, he was convinced he was going that very minute. He made my mom and I hold his hands while he'd try to say some picture-perfect last words. Take a deep breath, and then sit there in silence. After a minute of that, he'd do it again, and switch the words up a little bit. But he just wouldn't die. It was like trying to watch Michael Scott sink a behind-the-back shot. My dad, who was leaning against the wall during all of this, shifted his weight and accidentally hit the light switch, turning the reading light on right over my grandfather. You could hear the excitement in his voice. "There it is. I see the light. It's finally time," while we have to hold back the weirdest mix of grief and comedy tears I've ever had in my life. When I was in my 30s, a childhood friend of mine died unexpectedly. This guy was the stereotypical class clown that made everyone laugh. He happened to also be a physically large person. While alive, he spent a lot of his time catching trout on a local river. After he died, his family thought it would be appropriate to have him cremated and then spread his ashes on his favorite river. So, all of the decedent's family and friends are gathered on the river bank. As the minister is conducting the funeral, myself and my group of jackass friends are standing together and paying our respects. It's a beautiful day with perfect weather. The river water is crystal clear and flowing at a nice pace. The moment arrives where the minister is to open the urn and dump the contents into the beautiful, flowing river. The ashes are to become one with the water and carried to the 4 corners of the earth. My friend is to travel to places in death that he never did in life. A fitting celebration to the life of a beautiful soul. As the minister tilts the urn, the ashes come spilling out. They hit the water and sink. As he continues to pour, the ashes start piling up at the bottom of the river. It starts as small pile and grows to a larger mound. There was no beautiful cloud in the water. There was no becoming one with the river. There was just a small hill of cremated human remains in the bottom of a river. Witnessing these events, one of the jackass friends says too loudly, "Damn, even his ashes are heavy." Our little degenerate group busts out laughing in the middle of the funeral, on the banks of that crystal clear river. I started laughing even harder when it occurred to me how much my friend would have enjoyed that stupid comment. Sometimes it takes laughter to get through the tough times. It sounds like your grandfather was a special person. I melted for you at the end. One of my grandmothers happened to die during summer. We went to a funeral home for a service. Open casket. We walked in. It was chilly inside. My girlfriend said, "It's so cold you could store meat in here." She didn't realize what she'd said until my uncle stared at her, shook his head, and walked away. I went to my cousin's celebration of life back in my hometown years ago, and I was standing on the rocks by the beach. We had the celebration in a park that's separated from the beach by rocks and a fence. And I was smoking a joint with my aunt and dad and said, "I am ready to go home though. After all this sadness I need to relax and decompose." I meant decompress. I was mortified and so many people heard me. I know cousin would have laughed though. Similar experience. Had a college class held on the main floor of a dorm. And over the course of a week the smell in the hallway continuously got worse. This led to our professor finally leading a rousing game of Name That Smell, with used kitty litter slightly beating out burned ramen. They found a body in the basement of the dorm that evening. No one mentioned the game again. My uncle died at home, at the kitchen table, in 2014. I wasn't there, but my sister said tons of fluid came out when he died. He had terminal lung cancer and hospice was there. I left work to be with my mom and grandma, and to my horror, the floor was still sticky. They'd hastily mopped. And someone thought it was a good idea to bring sympathy lasagna to eat at that very table. Nauseated face. I love how almost every comment is a story similar to OP's. Then one person just decided to ask whether that was an Among Us reference. I am a hospice nurse. Years ago I was admitting someone to one of our inpatient units and helping their family member set up Wi-Fi. It wasn't connecting. And I said, "We must be in a dead zone." I immediately realized what I said and was mortified. Thankfully the family member thought it was hilarious.
If you enjoyed this video, please check out our playlists full of similar content. Epicaricast is like doom scrolling for your ears. Please like, share, and subscribe.